I encourage all of you to try this problem totally on your own before watching this video. So if you're at this video, please pause it, read through the problem on your own, and then try it on your own. Everyone should do that. If you get stuck or you want to check and make sure you're going in the right direction, that's when I'd like you to watch this video. I will explain it fully in this video. I just would like you to try it on your own first. We're using the same exact strategy we used in the previous problem. It says Mrs. Nichols is making a meat lover's pizza. She includes the following toppings. So let's see, we've got a 1/4 cup of sausage, 1/3 a cup of pepperoni, 1/6 a cup of bacon, 1/8 a cup of ham, and 1/8 a cup of ground beef. My first question is how many total cups of toppings will Mrs. Nichols need for her pizza? Since you're allowed to use calculators, this should be really easy for you to figure out. So we've got 1/4 cup of sausage, so 1/4 plus 1/3 a cup of pepperoni, plus 1/3, plus 1/6 a cup of bacon, plus 1/8 a cup of ham, plus 1/8 a cup of ground beef gives us 1 whole cup of meat. So even though we've got all these varieties, it's 1 cup of meat. Mrs. Nichols likes to keep the same proportions for her pizzas, so they taste the same each time. Figure out how much of each ingredient Mrs. Nichols used for each of the following events. So this time my table is kind of rotated from how it was last time. If I look at my ingredients measured in cups, that's where I'm going to be finding my proportions. So I'm going to copy down those same fractions I saw up here that are cut off on my screen. And I'd encourage you, even though you can see your whole paper, to do the same thing. All right? So here's what I know. I know that I'm taking 1/4 a cup of sausage, 1/3 a cup of pepperoni, 1/6 a cup of bacon, and 1/8 each of ham and beef. That total amount adds up to 1. The total number of pizzas, well, that's going to depend on what we're doing. So let's see. For game night, I need 1 whole cup of sausage. So for this column, what I'm doing is I'm taking my amount of sausage and I'm multiplying it by 4. Since I'm keeping this proportional, I can use that same strategy for each of these following ingredients. So for example, pepperoni, for game night, I'm going to multiply by 4. So instead of 1/3, take 1/3 times 4 over 1 is 4/3. And you can either leave that as an improper fraction, but I know a lot of you like mixed numbers better. So I would write 1 1/3 cups of pepperoni. I would like you to always make sure you're simplifying your fractions. So with bacon, again, I'm taking 1/6 of a cup times 4 cups because my constant of proportionality is 4. And that's going to give me 4/6 a cup of bacon, which really means that I'm taking 2/3 a cup of bacon. Ham is 1/2. Let's see. Does 1/8 times 4 equal 1/2? And the answer is absolutely. 4/8 is the same as 1/2. And if you take a look, my ham and beef numbers will always be the same because we're using the same proportion of ham and beef. So we'll also use 1/2 a cup of ham and beef. Now we could add all these up to find our total amount of meat used, right? So 1 plus 1 1/3 is 2 1/3, plus another 2/3 is 3 1/2 and 4. So 4 cups of meat. We already knew that though, because that was our constant of proportionality. So this constant of proportionality and the total amount of meat used are going to be the same. And in fact, the total number of pizzas, since there's 1 cup of meat per pizza, that's going to also be 4. So let's use the same strategy for a big family birthday party. For the big family birthday party, I know how much bacon I'm using. I'm using 1 cup of bacon. So starting with 1/6 a cup of bacon, now I'm using a whole cup. That's 6 times as much. If you're not sure, you could take 1 divided by 1/6 on your calculator. So that means to get from my ingredients column to the big family birthday column, what I'm doing is I'm multiplying by 6. This tells me a couple things right from the beginning. It tells me I'm going to use 6 total cups of meat, and I'm making 6 pizzas, and that I need to multiply each of these numbers by 6. So I'll do that. 1/4 times 6 over 1, that's going to be 6/4, which I can simplify to 3/2 because those are both even. It's okay to leave your answer as 3/2 of a cup, but if you'd rather have a mixed number, you could write 1½ cups. Pepperoni, I'm taking 1/3 of a cup times 6 pizzas. That gives me 6/3 of a cup. This you definitely need to simplify because 6/3 simplifies to the whole number 2. So we get 2 cups of pepperoni. We've already got our bacon. For ham, we're looking at 1/8 of a cup times 6 pizzas is going to be 6/8 of a cup on that last pizza, which does in fact simplify to 3/4 of a cup. And I don't need to do any work for beef because I already know the ham number, which is the same. Let's figure out how many pizzas I'm going to need to make for the Mathopoli Winners Pizza Party. Don't worry if you don't want any meat. I would make another pizza that is vegetarian. Okay, so let's take a look at beef. Before I even figure out any constants, I know that this number is going to be 1/8, or 1 1/8, because the ham number and the beef number will always be the same. So how did I get here? Well, 1 1/8. 1/8 goes into that 9 times, right? Because there are going to be 8 pizzas in that first cup, and then we have 1 more, so 9 total pizzas. So I know I'll be using 9 cups of meat and 9 total pizzas. And I also know that my constant of proportionality, bringing me from my ingredients column to my pizza or my Mathopoli Winners column, that constant's going to be 9. Let's just double check. 1/3 a cup of pepperoni times 9 over 1 does in fact equal 9/3, which simplifies to 3. So we should be good with those 9 cups of meat total. So let's multiply the remaining values. For sausage, I'm starting with 1/4 of a cup, but I want 9 pizzas, so I'm multiplying that by 9, and I end up with 9/4. Again, I'm fine with improper fractions, but if you want it as a mixed number, that should be 2 1/4. And our very last one on this page, 1/6 a cup of bacon times 9 pizzas is going to give me 9/6 a cup of bacon. Those are divisible by 3. That simplifies to 3/2, which I know is 1 1/2 cups of bacon.